Eamon Khan here, 4 seconds out with Queensberry's Dev Sahni. Dev, you and Thomas Treiber seem to be building up that little rapport, a little bit of a comedic output before the press conference starts. Are those lines planned between you two?
I pay him a lot of money to say nice things about me, so I'm indebted. But what was it? Was it Tuesday? He said amazingly talented. What did he say today?
Dapper.
Dapper.
Dapper Dev.
I mean, these are lovely words from Thomas Treiber. It's off the cuff, to be honest. But yeah, I do owe him a lot of money now.
Fair enough. Well, I'll let you settle that bill with Thomas come the way, and I'm sure. And let me get you weighing in on Nick Bull versus Ronnie Rios, defence of his world title, homecoming as well too. You said there, look, is there any pressure on your shoulders? And Nick kind of batted off and said, I don't really feel that right now. And I don't think he'll probably feel it when it comes to fighting out in his ring work. But Nick Bull making that defence, what do you think of the challenge of Ronnie Rios at the weekend?
Ronnie Rios' game. He's hungry. He's got... You know, he tried to play it down a little bit there, but I've watched interviews where he's talked about he wants to show his children that if you put your mind to it, you can do anything. So him becoming a world champion at 34 years old, at the third time of asking, after a bit of a hiatus a couple of years back, is a real example to everyone. Don't give up on your dream. So he has got that story heading into it, that added pressure, which he's playing down, but he has put it out there. I think he's hungry. I think he will certainly come to fight. The question that was telling for me, the answer that he gave, I talked about, if you're faced with a wrecking ball, do you move out the way or do you face it head on? And he says he plans on facing it head on. So that sounds ill-advised against Nick Bull because that pressure is just constant, relentless, non-stop. He might have no choice but to face it head on. He's up against a younger man who's very, very, like his work rate is unbelievable. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it will turn into a bit of a firefight. But if he's saying he's going to do what, face him head on, it could be over fairly quickly.
Nick, of course, will have his sights set on Ronnie Rios this weekend, but if he gets through the test as he plans to do, want to get that unification bout, just your finger on the pulse of maybe what the fans want, or maybe your own opinion as well here. What would you like to see in terms of Nick challenging for the unification title as a particular champion? Do you want to see maybe trying to avenge that draw to Ray Vargas first and picking up the title there?
That feels like a good fight to make, right? Would Ray Vargas take it? I don't know. He was given fits in the first fight. I can't imagine it's a fight that he particularly enjoyed. But we had George on the stream earlier, George Warren, and I talked about what could be the next move, providing Nick Bull comes through here. I dropped the name of Inoue in there. Could that be a thing? And George said, Inoue will have his own plans. Whatever he wants to do, he decides. He sells out 60,000 kind of arenas in Japan. But if Inoue did come up to featherweight and fancied a fight with Nick Bull would not say no to that. But the immediate plan for Nick Bull is to pick up other belts. There's another belt out there which should have his name on it, so I'd imagine he wants that. He probably wants Ray Vargas's belt. Don't know.
You never know who on the undercard of the press conferences might take the spotlight, and it was Heider Herrera for me, who, quote-unquote, threats like that always come across a little bit more kind of stern with the way that they're put across there. But Heider Herrera features on the undercard as well as Jack Rafferty versus Turner as well too. Pick of the undercard for yourself there, that British title fight? Yeah,
I'd say so. And also great to see Andrew Kane back. He said he didn't know who he was fighting. Like, he was looking across, I don't even know this fella's name, but I think he's got bad intentions. He always does have them, Andrew Kane. Herrera, I'm a fan. I like him. I like the broken English. It sounds like he probably knows about maybe 10 English words, and I'd say 50% of them are swear words. And I think he went through the entire vocabulary up there. Fantastic stuff. Did you see his video where he was calling out Lee Wood?
Missed it. Right
down the barrel, right down the camera. I think IFL did it, and he was just saying the same sort of things about him. F you, bro. And I think at the end of that, today with Oliver Flores, I said, do you have a message for him? And he said, thank you. I'm going to F you up. So there's just something sinister about him. I'm a big fan. And normally when you get these Cuban fighters 15-0, you'll see their knockouts being like 3-4 knockouts. He's got 13 knockouts. He's a heavy-handed Cuban southpaw who can chat a bit. who can certainly fight. I think we should be very excited about him. And Henry Turner, Jack Rafferty, perfect. Both bring a belt to the table, and they've got that Lord Lonsdale belt dangling in between them. That vacated, of course, by Dalton Smith. And both unbeaten. Brilliant fight. Brilliant fight. I'm not sure how that one's going to go. It's a step up for both. Henry Turner's looking very good at the moment, but so's Jack Rafferty. I can't wait.
Looking forward to this weekend's action. Let's open the door to more of the boxing sphere. And I want to get your thoughts, of course, from the fallout of AJ versus Dubois. I think you were one of the maybe very few that picked Daniel Dubois to get the victory, and maybe some of the Queensberry hat on would have been there, of course, but you still made the pick, and you've got to be respected for it. Dubois has got all the options in front of him in the world, including potentially a rematch, but maybe even the winner of the Usyk versus Fury 2. What would you like to see for Dubois if you could make the choice, or what do you think the fans would like to see for Dubois next?
I think the world's his oyster. I think he's on holiday at the moment. He's just had that. Do you know, he's had such a kind of year, such a 13 months actually. Usyk was back in August last year. Jarrell Miller, Hrgovic, Anthony Joshua. That's all happened in the space of 13 months. So I think he needs a bit of a rest. I think Daniel Dubois versus anyone right now, anyone in that top 10 is like a big sell. I think he's a name on everyone's lips. If it's Anthony Joshua again, I'm sure he won't shy away from that, Daniel Dubois. He'll be like, what? I get to do it again? Great. If it's the winner of Fury Usyk, I'm sure he wouldn't shy away from that either. What he has on his side, compared to all those guys, the guys above him, Fury Usyk, and Joshua around him, is youth. He's 27 years old, and these other guys are getting older, and he fights like a young man as well. He fights with someone who just has unlimited, boundless energy, fearless. He's got that fearlessness. Despite what he's been through, he still approaches things with fearlessness. You would think that maybe after the Joe Joyce fight, that fearlessness would subside and maybe he'd be a bit more hesitant. He's not. Anthony Joshua is one of the heaviest punchers in world boxing. Daniel Dubois set about him, not even thinking about what's coming back, just set about him. And that's what he's got. He hasn't necessarily got that scar tissue so much. And he's a problem for any heavyweight in the world right now. I don't know who he's going to fight next, but I can't wait to find out. Talk
Of rematch with AJ, and let's just play with that for a little bit. Dubois surely goes in as a resounding favourite in that fight. Do you feel for yourself like he would go in and do a better job than he did the first time around? Do you think it would be a different fight?
Would he go in as a favourite? He would have to. Surely he would have to. What would the case for Anthony Joshua be? The case for Anthony Joshua would be that he did have some success in the final round of the fight. If he's able to do that earlier, maybe he can do it. Daniel Dubois just seemed to shock him in there. He seemed to shock him with that jab, how heavy it was, the first right hand that landed, and he had AJ backing up for quite a bit of that fight. I don't think AJ could quite figure out what on earth this was in front of him, who just wouldn't leave him alone, seemed to take shots off him and coming back with heavy, heavy shots. Dubois would surely be the favourite in the rematch. But you just never know. You never know with Anthony Joshua because he can change things. We've seen that in the Andy Ruiz rematch. We saw against Usyk he did better in the rematch against Usyk than he did in the first fight. He will be hurting from this. He'll be studying this. He's probably watching the fight right now. He's probably watched it 4 times today already. So he'll be planning and plotting, I'm sure. It's just a case of, is it the right move for him to take it again? Don't know.
One thing I don't want to get lost in the conversation is the credit that's deserved to Don Charles and the work that the team have done to get Daniel Dubois to that position of defeating Anthony Joshua. Don's taken his opportunity now to speak when his voice, I guess, is the loudest and say his piece. But what of Don Charles and what he's done? And do you feel like the industry will give him the credit he deserves?
I think the industry is starting to give him the credit. I think he's a top man. I remember meeting him for the first time like 10 years ago, I think it was, and I was just a nobody. Like, still am a nobody, relatively, but like he didn't have to give me the time of day, and he really did, and he was just really, really nice to me. And you remember things like that because in this sport, not everyone's nice to you. I'm sure you're seeing that as well. It's one of those industries. So the people that are nice and go out of their way to be nice, you take note of that. He's always been a good guy. He's one of the good guys. It's great to see that after all these years, he's now got a world heavyweight champion. It feels like there's he wants the world to know. Look, I'm here now, kind of thing. I'm enjoying these interviews from him. He's got the platform now to speak, and you need to look at him as what he's done with Daniel Dubois as quite brilliant, really. So well done, Don Charles.
The very lastly, just turn our attention to next weekend. Just want to get your thoughts on who do you think will prevail as the undisputed light heavyweight champion in the form of Beterbiev or Bivol?
I'm leaning towards Beterbiev. Bivol's great, right? But my feeling with Beterbiev is I have seen him take hard, flush right hands from Anthony Yard. So I believe Anthony Yard is a bigger puncher than Dimitri Bivol. Statistically, he is, and I just, from what you can see, I think he is. So that tells me, look, I might have this completely wrong. Bivol will probably just like knock him out and around now. But that tells me that Beterbiev can take Bivol's shots. I've seen Beterbiev beat Gvozdyk. I'm not sure that Bivol is that much better than Gvozdyk, if at all. If you remember when these Ukrainian amateurs were coming through, it wasn't just Usyk and Lomachenko. It was a three-headed monster. Gvozdyk was the other one. He became the lineal light heavyweight champion. He knocked out Adonis Stevenson to win the WBC title. He was a real player heading into his, I think it was an undisputed fight at the time, maybe a unified fight with Beterbiev. And he was winning rounds against Beterbiev. But ultimately, the pressure told, and Beterbiev ended up beating him up and sending him into semi-retirement. And just another note on Gvozdyk is we've just seen him fight David Benavidez, and that wasn't the most warm of welcomes for Benavidez into the light heavyweight division. Gvozdyk, even at this age, has still got something. So I put a lot of stock into Beterbiev's win there. I look at common opponents in terms of Joe Smith. I think Beterbiev had him out of there in a couple of rounds. Bivol went the distance and took a hard shot late in that fight. I think it might have been after the bell. But I just think he's... Look, Bivol's ice cold as well. I just think Beterbiev's colder.
Well, whether it's a Mystic Dev or a Dapper Dev, thank you so much for speaking to the Seconds Out. Looking forward to this week's action. Much appreciated, sir.
Good to see you.
You too.
All right.